Alrighty, friends, we're back. Your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 606, and we're recording on February the 7th. Hope you're all well. Aubriana, how are you?
I am here again. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's good. I can't complain. It's been like really warm up here again for February, so it's sunny, it's warm. I'm happy.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we've got, go ahead.
No, I was saying it's not like super cold, but I'm gearing up because next week I will be heading to Idaho for the Coachella Summit, which is like bordering on the the Canada border there. So it's going to be nice and brisk, I'm sure. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will wish you best. I will be heading over to Munich for Retail Local Europe next week with Karsten and company over there. So excited about that. And it's kind of interesting because the venue is the Munich airport. We're actually having the conference in the airport. So that'll be interesting. We're kind of, I think actually all the retail locals this year, we're trying to go for more of an experiential location. I'll call it that. So kind of talk about tech and retail and where things are going and then actually see it in action. And the other big announcement is our spring early summer conference, which will be this year, June 14th and 15th, is going to be happening inside of Mall of America. So that's another big one. Same thing.
So if you're going to be in the airport in Germany or in Sandpoint, Idaho next week, let us know.
Yeah, there you go. Come see us. All right, we have a good show for you. 4 stories that we're going to cover as per usual. And Brianna will start us off.
All right, so we're going to start with a story all around AI and functionalities. It's like the buzzword we really don't want to talk about, but the capabilities that it's powering are kind of cool. So InMoment has announced some new capabilities on their XI platform. I don't know if they call it XI or if they call it 11. I'm not sure, but this is enabling organizations to deliver these measurable business outcomes from a customer experience initiative or focus, if you will. So they've invested in some different AI-powered technologies, so a lot of predictive analytics around some cool aspects to help with like the consumer experience and just, I would say, like help organizations, especially multi-location organizations, have this proactive approach to improving experiences, and I would say being able to kind of narrow in on churn or potentially problem areas. So some of these new enhancements I'm just going to kind of touch on and give an opinion really quick. But one that's really cool is called their intent detection. So this basically is built on some functionality that they acquired through the Lexalytics acquisition, and it's predictive AI. So it's basically informing a business about actions that could proactively be applied across segments, experiences, and channels to increase positive business and customer impact. So just giving some recommendations there. There's another one that's called frontline coaching and prioritization. And this is really just like thinking from a glance, like top 5 positive and negative impactors on a business, but at a location level, which is really cool. So tying in that location piece and seeing what's impacting specific, specific locations or stores. And so that they can obviously provide that frontline improvement. And then you've got something called impact predictor. You've also got a human AI tagging, some social and reputation management features, and a digital and mobile app integration that has like micro surveys and all of these different things. So I like the idea they're thinking about like the social review, voice of customer pieces, trying to say like, what's the competitive landscape? How can they use some industry benchmarks, take immediate action to recover these dissatisfied customers that are churning? So there's all of these different, features that they're rolling out, which are pretty cool. I think that it's really important to be able to use like these types of services in this day and age where we can do a lot of predictive analysis, to use those analytics to benefit when you're, perhaps going to see churn. I know I've been working on a lot of this is like you think about subscriptions or Even app usage, whether that's for CTV or mobile, but looking at identifiers that could predict that someone is likely to stop subscribing is really important to a lot of businesses. So I think that there's some meat here. And it sounds like there's just like this whole suite of customer experience solutions to help power that. So, we'll have to see if there's any customers that want to tell us their standpoint and how empowering this is for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the real test, right? Like, what do the customers think about it? I think the part that I'm excited about in this is the intent detection pieces and kind of that predictive modeling stuff. I think one of the big trends that I've been seeing lately, and I've been talking to companies about, is all of that sort of predictive AI, trying to understand, intent in general, like whether that's, you're launching a new product or service and what the reaction might be, or where geographically from a location point of view you might get the best results and therefore want to focus your marketing efforts and things like that. We're seeing a lot of sort of optimization around there. I was talking to another company recently that is in the agent-based modeling space, so predictive population simulation type of models, right? And kind of looking at using a simulated population and their movements, to kind of understand kind of reactions and intent and those kinds of things. And so I think there's a lot going on in this space. And I think InMoment obviously is a company that's been around in the location base for a long time. We've worked with them over the years. And I think they've made a lot of smart acquisitions, review trackers and things like that on the social piece that you were talking about, reputation management piece. But the test is, at the end of the day, what does the customer think about this? And is the data, is the predictive modeling actually proving to be accurate and true, and bringing the ROI that those companies want. So, but I like it overall. I think it's a good suite of tools that they've launched. All right, on to our second story. So there's we've talked a lot over the last couple of years on the show about, automated checkout or self-checkout technologies. And there's a lot of players now in the space around this, standard cognition and, companies of that ilk that, are out there. Amazon Go, of course, Fujitsu, there's a lot of players in that space at the moment. And one of the other ones that I've been hearing a lot about lately is a company called Mashgin, or Mashgin, depending how you want to say it, Mashgin. And they hit my radar this week because they signed a deal with Alterra Mountain company. So if you're not familiar with Alterra, that's the company that owns a lot of the big ski resorts here in North America, 15 of them, in fact. So Big Bear and Mammoth Mountain, Winter Park. They own Blue Mountain here near Toronto that we work with. And so, I think it's interesting now to see sort of a progression of this sort of automated checkout or self-checkout technology from, retail, where we saw it start, to, a lot of the things that we talked about the last, year, moving into sports and stadiums and things like that, and airports. And now we're seeing this make its way to sort of resort, type properties like this, right? So the other thing that's really interesting about their kind of technology or suite of tools that's different than some of the others that I've seen is the technology that they use and the cost point of it in particular. So, I was reading into this some, and so they charge $1,000, just $1,000 per machine per month to get, a store or, somebody up and running on this. All the hardware is produced in California instead of being imported from China or other markets. And they use really inexpensive cameras, that you can get off the shelf kind of thing almost. So, and they say the whole thing can be up and running in about 15 minutes. And they even have built it in such a way that it supports the unbanked and areas where there's poor connectivity. So you don't even, it accepts cash as well, and can run without internet. So I like the sort of that they've sort of made this let's call it the Amazon Go for any small business, any retailer, anybody that kind of wants to get into this sort of self-checkout process. And I think that doesn't mean that that's where they're focused, because they have some huge clients. Obviously, Alterra Mountain is a big one, but they also, Madison Square Garden uses them, and Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and a number of airports and convenience stores as well. And they have Compass Group, all the cafeterias and those kinds of things that you see in hospitals and university campuses using their technology as well. And Compass is actually an investor in the company. So I like this company. I think they're doing some interesting things, and I like their approach to sort of all sizes and tiers of customers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting to see the evolution of these different like self-checkouts. The vision one is interesting to me too. And I started thinking about the application within like a ski resort specifically, because maybe it's like harder with all of like, people are pretty bundled up. Maybe you don't want to be
Yeah,
like digging for payments, your phone, whatever else. So I
but you
think
need
this
that
is like a
Gatorade.
I think this is a good fit for that application. I don't know that I'm like really ready to do any type of vision checkout, but I would assume that there's a lot of people who are, and would want to actually just try it just because. But I do think that they have a very unique niche and the aspect of what you already said, which is like they're this like self-checkout and Amazon Go kind of a deal for smaller businesses. So I think it's interesting. All right, I'm jumping over to a more location story, which this company MKodo, I think is how you say that. I was trying to find out exactly how you pronounce that, but out of London, they have a service that is called GeoLocs, and this is really focused for iGaming operators. And they are really like addressing these needs of these iGaming operators that are featuring geo-based marketing and promotional offers. So they're really touting like easy regulatory compliance, which can be a big deal in some areas. So they recently just tested this developer solution with several trusted partners, and now they're making this available to all the operators. MKodo really primarily is focusing on, I would say like front end development, specializing in these iGaming apps, user experience, player retention, all those things. But they have these other products that include like this secure API management framework, which is called mCloud Gateway, and then the GeoLocs, which is the geolocation service, which is now also available. So the compliance solution, it really is about making sure that whoever is playing is allowed to play like where they are located. If you think of like gaming, gambling, anything, of that nature, it's specifically still relevant in the Canadian market, where local gambling restrictions can differ and vary. So I think that what's interesting is like, only recently did a lot of those laws change here in the US. But this compliance solution really is allowing them to have like location-based marketing, but also specified areas can receive specific promotional offers. Also like looking at some type of retention from operators and they're looking at some other developer actions to roll out soon. But this really reminded me of that. I went back and I thought of like my days at Digital Element when
Yeah.
we were like doing this very like early days in the IP intelligence world, where based on the IP address, we would say, could somebody play a specific game or place a bet or whatever it be. And so we had several different gaming clients that would use that technology, even, as early as like 20 plus years ago. So I think it's really interesting to see that this is still a need in the market. There's still compliance solutions that are necessary based on location. And, it's interesting to see how we see a lot of movement away from the geolocation space, away from data. But when it comes to kind of more of this compliance aspect, it's like it's necessary, right? You have to be able to determine where somebody is to determine which laws they fit into and how you have to approach that. So I find this interesting, and it's good to see that this type of service is still needed and still being developed.
I knew you'd like that one because of your past history there. So that's that's why I had you do that. But Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's still a need in the market. There's still, state laws or provincial laws or, country laws, that restrict who can play, who can gamble. So I think, having those kinds of rules makes sense. I mean, it's in a lot of ways very similar to what we see in the banking sector in how they use location data to kind of, be, focus on anti-fraud solutions or things like that. It's the same application in a lot of ways, just applied to, a different kind of market here from a compliance point of view. So, yeah, I don't have a lot to add to what you said. I think this, it's a needed solution, and they seem to have hit on a right market, and they have the licenses, to operate in those markets. So, we'll have to watch and see how it evolves over time. But yeah, GeoLocs from MKodo seems interesting. Okay, final story. So this is more of a partnership announcement. So, and funny enough, we were just talking about these guys the other week with the new open maps standard that's happening, but TomTom has partnered with a company called Melissa Data to be specific. And so Melissa Data is a company that I don't think I've talked about on the show before. They're a kind of big global player, been around for 30 plus years in sort of data quality and identity verification and address management space. So kind of coming out of that, what I like to call the old BIA Kelsey, making sure you have clean data and quality data world. And so they've teamed up with TomTom and their satellite navigation data and their mapping data. And so the idea is for Melissa to use the maps and point of interest and routing API information from TomTom to provide their customers with an address engine that provides super accurate quality of business location information. So it's one thing to say, okay, we've cleaned this list and we've got quality data, and another thing, but it's another thing to say that when you're trying to, if you're trying to deliver a package, or you're trying to find a restaurant, or you're trying to, do, Uber Eats or whatever, that you're having, the most accurate data possible, right? And I think one of the things that we've seen, and we talked recently also about, a UK company called What 3 Words, and, their kind of novel addressing system based on 3 words instead of, postal codes or zip codes. And just sidebar, I saw they just announced a partnership with DHL worldwide. So now you can kind of deliver a package to a What 3 Words address on the DHL network. But this need for global addresses and for them to be accurate and support multiple languages and formats in all these different countries. And the fact that TomTom is a global player and has this sort of standardized way to deliver that data, I think makes sense. So Melissa operates in 240 countries. So I think, these are the kinds of things where you need 2 big global players to come together to provide sort of data that's clean, verified, and pinpoint accurate, when you're trying to, sort of meet that need. So I like the partnership. I think it's the kind of thing that is, if you're in the B2B space and you're looking for, quality data, this is a partnership you might want to look to. So that's all I have to say. Any comments from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the partnership completely makes sense. It's just interesting. Like, I think of Melissa and TomTom both as like the old guys at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's good that we're talking about them here, and it seems like they're trying to figure out, can they reinvent themselves? How else can they use their data? How else can they use their their IP and put that to work? So it's good. Like I like to see companies reinvent themselves. And nothing seriously innovative here, but I think it's a good partnership.
Yeah, but you have to, right? I mean, like we talked when we were talking about TomTom just the other week about how, from a mapping point of view, I mean, they lost a lot of ground to Google and Apple, right? And so, they've joined this kind of new coalition, this open source coalition, with Mozilla Foundation and all of that we talked about just the other week. And so I think you're seeing this kind of drive now from them in particular to say like how we've got this fantastic, super accurate, amazing global asset. How do we leverage that? And I think we'll probably see more partnerships like this one with Melissa in the months to come. So good on them.
There you go.
So that's it. That's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 606 of Location Weekly. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We appreciate it. If you have story ideas, reach out to us. We would love to hear about them and perhaps feature them. If you are going to be in Idaho next week, go see Brianna, give her a high five. If you're going to be in Europe, come to Munich for Retail Loco. And I'd love to see you there. And yeah, just give us some likes and love on whatever channel you're consuming this, and we'll see you next week with another show. Take care. Bye.